The number of subscriptions is growing, retail sales are growing, and we've increased our print run several times, so we're very excited about the future of the magazine. And yeah, they're the covers. And Darby Chamberlain is chairman of the magazine committee, which meets every 2 months. The other thing that Shireen and her membership team do is look after all the affiliated bird clubs. A number of these clubs' membership we administer, and there's the affiliated bird clubs. I think we now have 35 affiliated bird clubs, and there's a few down at the bottom which are going to be affiliated in the near future. Literally every bird club in South Africa has wanted to become affiliated to BirdLife South Africa and has signed an affiliation agreement. I know there's a number of bird club chairpersons here. I'd like to thank you for that. Okay, then the other program up in the business division is the events program. Emma Askes, she's a one-person show with volunteers like Gizzy. And this, of course, Flock is one of her events. The Bird Fair is another exciting one. We don't have the SASL funding anymore for the Bird Fair, but we decided to go on our own, and Mel Tripp helped design a beautiful logo, we think. There it is, the African Bird Fair, it's called. Last year held at the Walter Sisulu National Botanical Garden. Incredible visitor numbers over that weekend. And just a few pictures you can see, and I think this year will even be better. Okay, another event we hold is the Flufftail Festival. This is about making people aware of water, wetlands, and water birds, including the flufftail. And there's the Flufftail Festival. It's been held during over three consecutive years. This year at Maponya Mall in Soweto. Basically, it's a giant maze, and people go through and they answer questions, and they stand a chance to win a prize. We had 2,200 young black children go through our maze this year. Other events that we hold, there are many other events. One that I'm really excited about is the Birdathon, which is held down at Strandfontein. And you can see that little graph at the bottom, how the visitor numbers have increased to 1,700 last year. And well done to Dale and the team, and our sponsor, Mellow Med, for organizing this fantastic event. Okay, we also have a facility at Wakkerstroom, as some of you may know, the Wakkerstroom Tourism and Education Centre. Beautiful place, I think most of you have been there. And things are really going well there. Don't worry about the detail of the graph. I like that graph to just show at the end of last year, visitor numbers increased. And we have this amazing guide, Lucky, as well as a few others who take birders out to see birds at Wakkerstroom and the Wakkerstroom surrounds. We also do a lot of marketing and awareness, and there's a team of people that serve on our marketing committee, a number of staff members, but also those volunteers. And I have to acknowledge the contribution of Utopia, which is our pro bono ad agency. They've been giving us support now for about 6 years, as well as JC Dakar, which is the outdoor media company as well, give us pro bono support. Our new campaign, which we thought about for most of last year and has been launched this year, is about making people think about birds and ultimately loving birds. And we're very pleased with this campaign. These are some of the early billboards. They've actually changed a little bit since then. But we've got literally dozens of designs of billboards using the word bird, using a bird name. So we love our skyline full of cranes. Those are being put up in Sandton. Of course, some people like those other steel cranes. The petrol increase, something to look forward to. And there's many, many more. We're doing things with boobies and many other birds. We also did something this year on April Fool's Day. And you may have seen this in The Citizen. This was a full-page free advert we got in The Citizen. Last year we did something in The Citizen as well. It was about finance to investigate the hawks. And that was about us, finding finance to study hawks and eagles and falcons and other raptors. But this was quite fun as well, and there's a little bit of text at the bottom as well. Very clever of Utopia. Oops. We do quite a lot of awareness with our annual Bird of the Year. Last year was the sociable weaver. Not getting this right for some reason. We also run a very clever program called Fledge, funded by the Dawn Group. And Siobhan Nagia, who's not here, she runs this program. And really what we're trying to do is teach the youth about the environment of birds using modern media. So Siobhan is very social media literate. The stuff she does I hardly understand, but we want to grow the number of people we reach through social media to 100,000 very quickly, and we're very grateful to Dawn for its support. We do traditional environmental education as well, and this is Christy Garland, sort of hiding away on the right, with a small group of school pupils visiting Wakkerstroom. Okay, then the last bit of work we do is, of course, our conservation, and that's what a lot of it is about. So a lot of the work is to support our conservation work. We have the species work, terrestrial birds, seabirds. We have the site work, which is the important bird and biodiversity areas program. We have the habitat work, which is mainly the policy and advocacy work. And then we have another program as well, which we call special projects, which supports a lot of this work. So special projects, Martin Taylor, for example, was responsible for producing the Red Data book and then the State of South Africa's Bird Report. Okay, Seabird Conservation first, and Ross is the manager. I think all of you met him. That's his team, a growing number of people. And of course, we also have the Common Oceans people, who I'll mention in a moment, Bronwyn and Peter in that group. So in the annual report, there's a few diagrams and there's a few infographics which we produced this year. And that top one really tells you about the success we've had with the trawl fishery. 2006, we started the work. 2010, we started to understand it. We knew what the problems were, started to test the mitigation measures. 2014, we published the results and we showed that we'd reduced mortalities in the trawl fishery by 99%. So we've gone down from about 14,000 dead albatrosses a year to less than 100. That's an incredible achievement. Well done to Ross and his team. We've had similar success with the longline fisheries. I think the reduction is over 80%. And so much so that we've actually been asked to take what we've learned out of Cape Town globally into the high seas. We're part of a Common Oceans project. We've got a grant of $1.5 million. And we've been working with the Korean fisheries, Taiwanese fisheries, and other fisheries in the East, and lots of success there. Ross recently held a workshop, Ross and Bronwyn, to try and get an idea of global bycatch. How many birds are we losing around the world? The first attempt at a meeting wasn't very successful. Nobody wanted to come. I don't know where it was going to be held. Bopsfontein, I think. The second meeting was proposed for the Kruger National Park. Attendance was overwhelming. Everybody came. So it was, that's the ideal place to have a meeting, clearly. And we will talk at the end about the work we plan to do at Marion Island. We've initiated this. Who would have known a year ago, Ross, when you and I spoke about this, had a few meetings with Peter Ryan and Morné du Plessis, that we could undertake this work in a few years' time to eradicate mice from Marion Island, having these horrible effects on some of our nesting seabirds. Okay, the other work we do is on penguins, and you would have heard some of the penguin talks. Taryn Morris and Christina Hagen are here. There's two projects we're involved with. One, in simple terms, is to try and ensure that there's enough fish in the sea for the environment, and particularly for seabirds. And the other is to establish two new mainland colonies for African penguins, one at De Hoop and one at Plettenberg Bay. And that's really what we're trying to achieve, with generous funding from the Charl van der Merwe Trust and the Isdell family. And watch this space. Exciting things are happening. Okay, we have a terrestrial bird conservation program as well, managed by Dr. Hanneline Smith-Robinson. She's not here. She's on maternity leave. Her husband, Lance, is here somewhere. Are you? Yes, Lance, thank you. We're going to just double check that you're not on the deck birding. Also, a growing number of people in that program. And I'm just going to report on some of it. One of the birds we do work on, of course, as you all know, is the white-winged flufftail. And we're very worried about this bird. That infographic shows you there's only one known breeding site in the world at Burger Wetland in Ethiopia. They've been recorded at 16 sites post-1960 in South Africa, and they've only been recorded at 8 sites in South Africa post-2000. There's perhaps less than 250 birds remaining. So a bird that's become a big priority for us to work on. Hanneline, as you know, started her career as a geneticist. She's been publishing with colleagues from the National Zoological Gardens papers in very prestigious journals to show that the birds in Ethiopia and South Africa are the same species. So clearly it's birds that are moving between those two countries. And very excitingly, we're going to be building a facility at the National Zoological Gardens for white-winged flufftails, because I think the population's got so small that we need to establish some birds in a captivity. And Davy Chamberlain has been very involved in that. And there's Kiki Pasho, yeah. Kiki, are you around? Not? Okay, Kiki Pasho from Pace Construction is also involved in that project. Other exciting work we've been doing, Robin Culane, who's in the audience, has been using very novel methods, using cameras to survey very secretive birds, look at all the detail in the annual report, but this is very, very exciting, so much so that you've been able to photograph white-winged flufftails at sites and actually even interesting behavior. And some of this work has been published, and some of it is about to be published. So another project coming out of our terrestrial bird program. One of the birds that we're particularly worried about is the Taita falcon. There's less than 1,000 mature individuals, and we know of less than 40 nest sites. So Hanalene is working very closely with Dr. Andrew Jenkins and others, and they are the species guardians for this project, and they monitor Taita falcons at a number of places in Africa, and particularly up in the northern Drakensberg. But it's a bird that we're very, very worried about. They've probably gone from the Victoria Falls, Patoko Gorge area. And then you probably know the work we're doing around renewable energy, and this is funded by Investec. And we're very proud of the work that Sam Ralston has been doing over the last 4 or 5 years. When it was early days, we were expecting these developments to take place. We managed to raise the funding for Sam to engage with industry, with government, developers, to try and influence where these wind farms are put up. Because there's some areas where wind farms are fine and mortalities could be zero, they could be minimal, but the last place you'd want a wind farm is between 2 wetlands, for example. And Sam has been really had great success in getting all of the role players involved. Really, really incredible work. So much so that she's now advising the rest of Africa, Kenya and Egypt in particular, on where to position their wind farms. The other important conservation program is the IBA program, and Daniel Marnovic is the manager of that program. He also has a growing number of staff, and most of those staff are actually here. And those little orange squares in that map are all the 112 important bird and biodiversity areas around the country. So you can address the threats, but you also need to protect the habitats, and that's what Daniel and his team are responsible for. And a couple of years ago, or 18 months ago, they produced the IBA status report, and it showed which IBAs are threatened and what the most important threats are. And that figure, which is also in your report, summarizes the most important threats. So we now know what the threats are, and we can go about trying to address those. We've been very effective in protecting some of these IBAs using novel conservation methods, something called biodiversity stewardship, which is written into the Protected Areas Act. And the dark blue on the left shows the 58,000 hectares that were protected in the Chrissiesmeer area in 2014. Last year, we were involved in the protection of the Snowberg protected environment, 17,000 hectares as well. This is a long, long process. We're now in the process of seeing another 160,000 hectares registered through the Biodiversity Stewardship Program.